So, I just watched the HAZBIN Hotel season finale, and all I can say is, holy shit. If you guys enjoy these videos, make sure to subscribe. It really helps the channel out. Anyways, let's jump right into episode 7. Spoilers, obviously. The entire premise of this episode was so awesome. I'm actually really glad that the show didn't go the route of Charlie and Vaggie instantly being okay. I feel as so many shows make any drama between two characters just a big fight, and then a makeup right after. Hazbin's approach for them to not get into an argument was great, and I think it was very realistic for how this scene goes often in real life. Someone finds out their friend's been hiding a secret from them, and now their trust is hurt until they talk to somebody more mature, who lets them know that they were just trying not to hurt them. This was the case for Charlie and Rosie. Charlie, throughout the episode, was basically speaking her thoughts about how her trust with Vaggie was gone and broken. And Rosie was able to talk with Charlie and remind her that Vaggie just didn't want to hurt her. The show did a phenomenal job with this. I also love the inclusion of Rosie in this episode. For the leader of Cannibal Town, she was possibly the friendliest character in the show, other than Charlie. She was very willing to lend her people over for the fight, as long as Charlie was able to convince them. It almost makes me wish we had gotten Rosie in an earlier episode, but this'll have to do. I can't forget about Charlie's deal with Alistair as well. We didn't see any effects of that deal in this or next episode, but I have a feeling that this deal is going to come back in Season 2 for something big. We don't know exactly what Alistair is going to request from Charlie, but I think we all know damn well that it's going to be something big. Moving over to Vaggie's plot for episode 7, I was a big fan of this as well. Vaggie and Camilla's personalities match perfectly. I'm actually a huge fan of Camilla's character, and I'm glad we got another episode that included her. We especially get to see that she is a quite wise character, knowing that Vaggie was a former exorcist. It's also in this scene that we figure out how the angels can be killed so easily. Camilla is quite knowledgeable about how to defeat the angels, but she does make Vaggie earn that information from her. The first song of this episode is an absolute hit, with the song basically portraying that Vaggie needs to fight out of love instead of spite, which I believe is actually an amazing point. Vaggie also grew back out her wings. That was cool. Back over to Charlie, we finally get to hear the song from the original HAZBIN Hotel trailer. Charlie's able to recruit all of Cannibal Town through the song. By the way, I'm so glad a song finally worked for Charlie. It seems every time she ever tried to sing, it never went well for her. Anyways, Vaggie was able to get all the weapons needed from Camilla, and the two meet back up at the hotel when Charlie gives Vaggie a souvenir and finally solves their pain. As I said before, I think this was a perfect way for the show to go about this. Charlie isn't someone who would blow up on Vaggie, but most certainly would be freaking out behind the scenes, which she does. On the other hand, Vaggie knew that she is going to have to let Charlie come back to her instead of going to her. Even better, the entire rest of the crew decided to stay at the hotel and prepare for war instead of dipping when they knew danger was near. It was so nice to see the bond that all of the characters have created with each other over the last 6 months. Overall, the only thing I have to say negative-wise is that I wish we could have seen a little more of the background scenes. I would have liked to see some scenes from back at the hotel while Vaggie and Charlie were out doing their things and see how the characters got together in the face of adversity. Other than that, I've got nothing to say. In my opinion, I give this episode an amazing 9 out of 10 rating. The only reason I can't give it a 10 out of 10 rating is because that wouldn't be fair to the true season finale. So, the season finale. Wow! I mean, I don't even know where to begin for this episode. I could probably ramble on for over an hour on this episode. But I know you guys are on limited time, so I'll try to condense my opinions as much as I can. I guess I'll start with the V's. I'm so glad we got some dialogue with them again, even if it was limited. We hadn't seen much of Vox since episode 2, so it was good to see that he was almost an announcer for the extermination. His little quips about getting hard made me chuckle a good few times. I also liked, at the start, the conversation between Alistair and Nifty. It was a rare moment where we could almost feel that Alistair in some sort actually does care about the hotel. Alistair has always been such a difficult character to analyze about what his intentions are, and a lot of this episode did not help solve that case. But it was nice to see even 10 seconds of some humility from him. Another phenomenal song in this episode came from Charlie and Vaggie. More than anything, was one of my favorite songs from the entire series. So hearing the version from Charlie and Vaggie, again, almost made me cry. I was almost upset that it was so short. Anyways, it was good to see the kiss between Charlie and Vaggie as well. I've heard so many complaints from people that Charlie and Vaggie's relationship seemed to lack any real romance, so hopefully that scene shuts them up. Even then, there can be relationships where the couples aren't all over each other every 5 seconds. And honestly, that's probably the type of relationship that they're in. That type of relationship makes perfect sense for Vag and Char. They have their moments behind closed doors, but in the open, they're basically best friends. Anyways, war! Once again, I could probably go on for an hour about how phenomenal this entire scene was. Everything about it just seemed perfect. I love how mixed in the general battle was all of these individual battles. I'll start with the battle between Adam and Alistair. I honestly did not expect Alistair to try and face Adam, but I was gladly surprised. I think the scene played out perfectly as well. Both Adam and Alistair are not very humble beings, and they fought with that cockiness they have. I personally believe Alistair could take on and beat Adam, but Adam realized that when Alistair was actually putting up a fight, he needed to take this seriously. Once he did that, and Alistair was still being cocky, it was game over. Hearing Alistair's voice without his video effect also threw me off, but it was actually quite cool. I do think Alistair needed to lose that fight. He had basically won in every fight he's had in the show so far, so he needed to be humbled right about now. I guess the next battle to technically address is between Sir Pentious and Adam. And all I'm gonna say is this: I was right, motherfuckers, and I almost predicted that shit perfectly. I guess in general, he didn't sacrifice himself to save Cherry Bomb, but he basically did. Also, W to Sir Pentious for finally kissing Cherry Bomb. Sucks that he died literally 0.2 seconds later though. While some people weren't a fan of Sir Pentious' death, I think it fit his character perfectly. He went from the one-off character in the pilot to being the first sinner to be redeemed in the actual series. What a glow up from my guy. But the death really does fit. He was a goofy character throughout the series, and he died in probably the goofiest way possible. I really hope that Sir Pentious is given a role in heaven for season 2, which seems pretty likely so far, figuring he basically spawned in front of Emily and Sarah. I'll cover this topic more in my season 2 prediction video. Now to the fight between Vaggie and Lute. I think we all knew this one was coming, and man, it did not disappoint. While I'm obviously glad that Vaggie won the fight, I'm also glad that they made it a fair fight. Vaggie didn't just absolutely crush Lute. In fact, Lute had the upper hand for a good portion of the battle. It was only when Lute, kind of how Carmilla said the angels do, let her guard down and became very vulnerable, which is where Vaggie finally grabbed the upper hand and took her down. I'm glad they didn't go the route of killing Lute either, as I'm especially interested in seeing where her character goes in the series, especially after the ending scene, in which I'll get to a little bit later. Also, RIP Dazzle, nobody is mentioning his death, so I'm just gonna give him his moment here. The final fight between Adam, Charlie, and Lucifer. Just, wow, what a fucking scene this was. Charlie is the second most powerful demon that there is, but she sure doesn't act like it. She gets a few hits off Adam, but Adam did seem to overpower her throughout most of the fight. I know Charlie is much, much stronger compared to Adam, but Charlie just doesn't know how to use her powers. She's never had to up to this point, so it does make sense. Of course, it ends up being Lucifer who comes in to save the day with one punch to the face. With this, we get to see that Adam actually was wearing a mask. I'll also note that Adam being the most average looking guy ever is just comical, figuring all he ever did was talk about how great his dick was and all that sort of stuff. Seeing Adam completely destroy the hotel, though, was heartbreaking, because you could just feel Charlie's pain as it happened. Luckily, that pain didn't last long, as Charlie finally used her strength and just completely obliterated Adam. I have so much praise for this fight. It was beautifully written and even more beautifully animated. When you are physically able to feel the pain of the characters, you know it's a fantastic scene, and that's exactly what this was. I plan on doing a deeper dive into this fight in a future video, so stay tuned for that. Adam dying might have been the biggest twist I didn't see coming, especially at the hands of Nifty. He deserved it though. He could have gotten up and flew back to heaven, but he decided to stay on the ground and keep talking shit about how great his nuts were. To say his death was extremely satisfying was an understatement. He was a great Season 1 villain, but I do think it's a good time to move on to better things. Makes you wonder if he'll spawn back as a sinner though. Now, the song. The ending song actually did make me cry. The first minute of the song for some reason just made me so emotional, and I'm really hoping some of you can relate. If not, because it's going to be very embarrassing. Maybe it was Charlie and Angel finding their pets one moment before, but something about it, it was just so emotional. This song was probably the best of the show. We got basically every main character singing, from Charlie and Angel, to Vox and Valentino, to Alistair finally getting some solo singing. The first song of the series was Happy Day in Hell, and the final song, being a rendition of that song, is the perfect ending. I could not have been more pleased with the season finale. I already talked about Sir Pentious rising to heaven, but I really do hope that he plays some role in Season 2. He is the proof that redemption works, but I just have a feeling Heaven's gonna try and pull some bullshit to hide it. And then there was the final scene. I mean, I don't think anybody expected this final scene. Lou is back up in heaven revealing to Lilith that Adam's dead, and from what it sounded like, Adam had a deal in place with Lilith, and now that deal is done with him being dead. I honestly have no clue what to make of this scene. The most common theory from this show was that Alistair and Lilith have a deal, but if Lilith has been in heaven, then this theory makes no sense. Lou wants Lilith to go down to hell and stop Charlie's plans, but why would Lilith want to see her daughter fail? This ending scene is the definition of a cliffhanger, and I'm still thinking of theories as I sit here writing this. It's so hard to believe that we might not get Season 2 for another 2 years. Don't take my word on that because nothing's confirmed, but they did just start doing voice acting and animation usually comes after that. So it's probably going to be a good while. I guess I'll just be in pain until then. Overall, I give this episode a perfect 10 out of 10 rating. I have no complaints. I might be somewhat biased, but there is nothing in my opinion that I would change that I think would make me more satisfied. I guess the only thing would be a date for Season 2, but I don't think that's going to happen for a while. Overall, as a series, I give a Season 1 a 7 out of 10. I think this season almost was a before the hotel moment. We see the new, improved hotel at the end, and it seems as if we finally established our main cast now that Cherry Bomb seems like she's most likely going to be joining. We also were able to prove redemption is possible, which sets up the hotel perfectly for Season 2. I plan on making much more HAZBIN Hotel content while the show is in development, and I hope that many of you will stick around with me on this journey. Until then, I'll see you guys on the next video.